Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the CHM seminar. And my name is Chen. I'll be your motivator today. And today we're very honored to have Professor Tian Han today with us. And Professor Tian Han is a computer science professor and the director for the Center of Digital Innovations at the Teesside University. So he received his PhD in AI at UNL Lisbon, and he was a postdoc fellow at VUB Brussels. So Professor Han's research interest includes a lot of things we're also interested in, including AI safety, AI development, and this using a multidisciplinary approach, including game theory, evolutionary game theory, particularly agent-based modeling and incentives and behavioral modeling. So today he will share with us his work in using game theory to understand how to advance cooperation and AI safety. So please join me in welcoming Professor Han.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for kind introductions.
Thank
Can
you.
you finish?
No, I just want to put one last thing. Just as every time. So because this session is 1 hour long, so I would want you to reserve your very deep discussions after the talk and then clarification questions during the talk. Thank you.
Okay, thanks so much again. Thanks so much, for having me, and it's a great honor. I've been following your work and your center work for a long time, and it's just great to be here. And I already had the chance to talk to quite a few people, and it's just fascinating. The research you do is super interesting and relevant. So I'm so happy I'm here. Yeah. Okay, so today I take this opportunity to share some of the recent work on using this sort of voluntary commitments for promoting pro-social behavior, also related to the human AI interactions setting, and also how that can be useful for improving AI safety development. So we have this sort of AI development ecosystem, how this sort of voluntary commitments can improve regulations and safety behavior. Okay, as you probably can see from the title, I'm going to give a bit of introductions about why voluntary commitments is relevant, and I'm going to talk about how that can be a mechanism for promoting the evolution of corporations. And then it will be about AI regulations and how voluntary commitments, for example, from countries, so where government asks for voluntary commitments from companies, how that can improve safety development. And I didn't plan this at the beginning, but after talking to several people here, I was thinking maybe I can already talk very briefly about my work, very recent, on evolution dynamics in human AI hybrid populations. Yeah, if time allows, otherwise it's not going to be there. Okay, a bit of, I don't know if that's, can you see there's something, a color? Is it okay?
Do you have it on your laptop?
No, this is not in my laptop. But yeah, so
that should be the other laptop. This one.
Okay, there's nothing on my laptop yet.
I think because it's in presentation mode.
Okay, so
Yeah. I can see the mouse was moving. So yeah.
Yeah, they should. We would need to go out of presentation mode.
Okay, so maybe
For a second, maybe.
Yeah, okay, that's please.
Yeah, I worry that it might be there for all of the time.
Yeah. So you'd like to?
Yeah, just this one.
Oh, yeah.
Just click this one. Yeah.
And then.
Okay. Yes. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
So now we need to go back to the presentation.
Okay. Great.
So just I think for the introductions of why commitment is useful, I think this is a great book by Randall Nesses, where he collects, this is a really nice collection showing why commitment can be very useful for promoting corporations. It's collections of work from game theories, psychologists, also from computer scientists. So here are some of the quotes, I think very good to explain why commitment is important. So commitment is giving up options to change incentives in the situations. So by committing, you actually limit yourself and also others from different options, and this is actually changing the incentive. And you also can think of commitments as promise or threat. So individual must consider that if I make a promise, I'm going to honor that. Yeah. And commitment is an important alternative to helping relatives and trading favor. So helping relatives is skin selections, and trading favor is direct reciprocity. We can see that in humans, we usually engage in a committed relationship rather than just trading favor. If you help me, I help you, and the other way around. We actually move beyond that sort of trading favor. We actually engage in a lot of much more committed relationships. And this book hypothesized that our specialized capabilities to make commitments may have evolved by natural selections, and a lot of my work is trying to sort of demonstrate this using evolutionary game theory and mathematical analysis. We can see a lot of examples of commitments in the real world. I started with this because I think it's probably most relevant. There's this paper on cooperative AI. They discuss different mechanisms that they think is important for enabling corporations in AI helping humans. One of the mechanisms is commitment. There are 2 or 3 others which include communications and institutions. If you know, there's also a large research area in a multi-agent system looking at commitment. They formalize commitments as a way to enable communications amongst agents. So there's a lot of ways you can implement commitment in agents' communications. And also commitment you can see in climate change agreement. You can see commitment in AI safety summit. For example, the White House, they have a call for voluntary commitments from companies to develop AI safely. And also we have marriage is an important example of commitment. And in the context of commitment, because for the paper I'm going to discuss, it's also important to think about incentives. Yeah. So how can we ensure that if we make a promise or someone make a promise, how we can ensure that they are going to honor it? Yeah. And one way to do that, for example, contractual relationships, you can see some sorts of institutional incentives. For example, here is this healthcare applications where in the UK they actually incentivize pregnant women to keep up smoking. We actually work with some of the hospitals to develop some evolutionary game theory model for this. And during COVID, you also see like people are encouraged to participate in this healthcare and vaccinations program using incentives. So that is the motivations that we think, okay, we have commitment, but it's also important to see what kind of incentive you can use to ensure commitment compliance. Once people committed, how to ensure that they actually honor it, because there might be fake committers. So they say, oh, okay, I just want to make sure that other people will cooperate with me. That's why I make a commitment, which if there's no incentive, no punishment, then it can just be some sort of it might discourage people from complying. Yeah. Okay, so here how we model this, we have an explicit commitment formation process where before the interactions, like the prisoner dilemma, so we have a game. Yeah. Before the interactions, people can accept or not to commit to cooperate in the interactions. And there's a course of participations. And then in the game, you can make conditional decisions on whether the commitment was formed in the first place or not. Yeah. So here in these pairwise interactions that I'm going to talk about here, it's simply a commitment is formed when both parties agree to commit, but you also can have multi-party interactions where a commitment is formed only, for example, a threshold number of people committed. Yeah. So here you can cooperate or defect when commitment is formed and when it is not formed. So in game theory, you need to define what are the possible strategies. So you see that there's 8 possible strategies here. Depending on this 3 decision point, you can either accept or not, cooperate or not, or cooperate or not when the commitment is not formed. For example, a strategy is here for, let's say, ACD is the one that accept the commitment, that they're going to join the commitment, and they cooperate if the commitment is formed, and defect if the commitment was not formed. Yeah. So you can make conditional decisions. Yes.
Okay, so, sorry, one question. So depending, so you have a conditional, something like conditional payoff matrix.
Yes. Yeah. So basically, you have to write payoff matrix for all the 8 strategies. Yeah.
I see. Okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
So can I ask,
Yes.
is this related to like this program equilibrium idea, which is where you submit like a strategy that is a program that says if the other program says cooperate, then I cooperate?
Yeah, you can define in that way if this is in that scenario. Yeah. Okay, so now we can define institutional reward or punishment on top of this game. So you have a per capita budget, which can be used to reward compliant behavior. Yeah, so here, those who accept, who commit, then actually honor it. Yeah, then get a reward, or you can punish non-compliant behavior. Note that here we only provide incentive for those who engage in the agreement. We do not punish or reward those who do not, who say, okay, I'm not capable of committing. Yeah. So here's justify reward and punishment. There's no room for antisocial punishment where you say, okay, I just punish whoever I like. Yeah. And as motivated, we think it might also be important to incentivize participations in the agreement in the first place. So you say, okay, please join, so that you can actually realize the benefit that can be provided by commitment. So a reward would be provided for anyone who just accept to join the agreement in the first place. So here's this paper that I'm going to talk about. So we asked the questions, which type of incentive is more effective in promoting compliance and cooperation, whether it's reward or punishment, and whether is incentivized participations to join commitment can actually improve cooperations. Because if you spend some of the incentive budget for encouraging participation, you have less for incentivizing compliance. Yeah, so what is the balance? So we did quite a lot of work in this setting, but we never actually compare different sorts of incentives. So this is different from some of the previous work where we look at commitment in prisoner dilemma as well as in public goods game. Public goods game is a little bit more complex, where you can have this sort of threshold. So you can say, okay, a commitment is formed only if a certain number of people in the group actually committed. Yeah. So we actually show that you don't need full group to commit for the commitment to be formed. Otherwise, you just lost a lot of benefit from commitment formations. And it's also relevant to some of the previous evolutionary game theory models on voluntary participations. But they never had this sort of commitment formations. There's no conditional behavior on commitment formations. So usually only 2 or 3 strategies in this model, and no previous work looked at incentive for encouraging participations. Yes, please.
Can I ask probably a very stupid question, but
No.
it's very interesting in that one. Like, can you mathematically show that the payoff matrices that result from the fact that there is this mechanism of commitment, that you cannot reduce it to a payoff matrix where there's no commitment, in a way, kind of reducing it to a system where you can complete the fact and cooperate, but with altered payoffs?
Oh, I doubt that. I never tried, but I doubt that you actually can reduce. Yeah, because you can see later the dynamics is very complex that you probably wouldn't expect or wouldn't be able to receive from this sort of pairwise interactions to strategies model.
Yeah, I mean that's the point, obviously. But
of course. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's a very relevant question indeed. Yeah. So here we use the prisoner dilemma. I probably don't have to talk about that. So here's the payoff matrix. Yeah, very quick. I'm not going to go into detail here. So you have 8 possible strategies. Yeah. So we wrote the payoff matrix for the scenario where there's no incentive, and the scenario where, for example, here reward, you have payoff matrix for punishments. So here's an example. So for example, when you have ACC plays ACC is the strategies that commit, cooperate regardless of whether commitment is formed or not. So basically, both strategies would cooperate, so both get a reward from the prisoner dilemma, but they both have to pay to share the cost of arranging the commitment in the first place. Why, when you have reward, they both actually get like a reward for accepting the commitment and actually honoring it. And for example, when ACC play with NCD, NCD is the strategies that does not commit and cooperate only if the commitment is formed. Yeah. So here ACC play with NCD. This player would, because the commitment is not formed, because only one player is committing. So that's why you have ACC would get an S and NDC would get a T. Yeah, something. Yeah, here. Okay, so we analyze this using evolutionary game theory. So you can see that evolutionary game theory is a very good mathematical framework for capturing both genetic evolutions and cultural evolutions. The main idea here is that the behavior that is successful will be imitated more, or the individuals with high fitness will reproduce more. And a framework, the way to implement that is very simple. So you have populations at time t. You randomly select a player from the populations who can randomly explore the behavior space, which is mutations, or they can imitate another randomly selected individual from the populations with a probability given by these so-called Fermi functions, which says the higher the fitness difference between my role model and me, the more likely that I will copy his strategies. Because basically, if I look at someone who is more successful than me at doing something, I tend to cooperate to copy their behavior. And here it's important to look at this parameter, which is beta, is the intensity of selections, which dictates how strongly you consider the payoff difference important. So for example, if you say, okay, I don't care, Whether that guy is more successful is not a big deal for me. I care about something else more. Yeah. So that says how important is the pay of difference, the success of others influence your decisions. You also can do some math using, for example, this evolutionary stable strategies, ESS, or you also can do risk dominance. This is just a way to say, okay, whether a strategy is successful in this setting. Okay, so we use ESS analysis for the payoff matrix you have seen. So we ask, okay, which strategies can be an evolutionary stable strategies, meaning that strategies can receive invasions from all other strategies in the populations. So here what we do is we randomly sample the parameter space. Yeah, so you can see here like more than 250,000 games. And in each game, we check which strategies is evolutionary stable. And here we observe that ACD is the only cooperative ESS, the strategies that commit, but cooperate only if the commitment is formed. Yeah, if the commitment is not formed, this strategy is going to defect. And we also check for different parameters, and we found that ACD is ESS only if there's some randomness, some noise in this process. So basically the noise says that my strategy says that I'm going to accept the commitment, but with some probability I actually didn't do that. Yeah. So some probability you do opposite to the thing that your strategy dictates you to do. Yeah. And clearly there must be some sufficient budgets to enable this. And an interesting observation is you cannot have too large alpha. You need to encourage participations, but you shouldn't overdo that. Yeah. If you spend all the money, all the budgets to encourage people to participate, but there's no incentive for ensuring compliance, then that wouldn't work. So here's some more quantitative analysis. Here we plot the frequency of all the 8 strategies and also the level of cooperation, which is the dark line here, as a functions of the budgets for participation, which is the alpha. Yeah. So you can see that reward participations can improve cooperations. So you see that, for example, here is right 30%. If you spend 30% of the budgets for encouraging participations and the rest for compliance, then you get maximal cooperations. And we show that in this setting, actually reward most of the time is better than punishment. So here you have the blue, the one for reward. The dashed line are the optimal values when you must like at the optimal level of participations. Yeah. Okay, so this is quite an interesting observation because usually in social dilemma, the institutional reward and institutional punishment usually have very symmetric effect. But once the commitment, the interaction is based on commitment, if you have pre-communications, then reward would work much better than punishment. Which is interesting because usually you prefer to use reward because of, for example, of ethical reason, it's better to reward than punish. Once we make sure that the interactions are discussed in advance, you arrange recommitment from everyone, then reward becomes a much more interesting solutions for encouraging cooperations.
Just one question.
Yes.
It's a kind of a symmetry breaking.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Is it because you like punishment and reward works better after commitment because you have already paid for committing, sort of like that there are costs before, and then you benefit more from
Yeah,
The
actually,
reward because you make up the money that you have spent.
yeah, it's actually forgot to explain. You asked is that the right question? So basically, here, the players, the defectors that do not commit, actually can escape from punishment. So here we cannot punish those who refuse to commit. Say, okay, I'm not capable, I don't have time, so I won't promise anything. You won't be able to punish those players. And actually, in case of punishment, that player actually can destroy the benefit of commitment. Why in case of reward, whenever you always reward the players that that commit and cooperate. So you always have the advantage from those who commit. Yeah. Why in case of punishment, you actually don't have that because you cannot do anything about. Yeah. So that is actually indeed breaking the symmetries. Yeah. Oof. So yeah, so here it just summarize what I just discussed. So reward is more efficient than punishment in commitment-based relationships, and it's useful to incentivize participations. And overall, we believe this is a much more complete account of institutional enforcement for ensuring the formal and informal contract agreements. Okay, so now I'm going to move to the second topic, which is on AI regulations and AI safety. So here we have the scenario where you have different firms compete with each other to develop advanced technologies, and how we can ensure that, so how we should regulate unsafe behaviors. It's very important because we can see that AI can lead to really big benefit for all the stakeholders. And given the promise of AI, we can see that people and political leaders and researchers express serious concern about there's some potential race amongst AI developers and firms, which lead them to cut corners on safety precautions. So here, because if you are ahead of the other, you can gain big benefit. Then you might have a race. Of course, there's been a lot of debate whether we actually have a race or not. Maybe it's not a good thing to talk about. So I usually just use the term competitions. Yeah? So we have competitions amongst different stakeholders and firms. So here, because of this potential race, which can lead to different sorts of disaster, so you can think people might lose trust from AI because AI wasn't developed safely. There could be some disaster. The worst thing could be like AI take over the humanity. Yeah? So there's a lot of risks here, and so it is really important to look at regulations, safety standard policies, how we can make sure that we ensure compliance. But this is not an easy thing to do. It's very well demonstrated by this Collingridge dilemma, where you have usually the political or the regulations development is always slower than technology development. So usually when you try to get some data on which regulation works, which doesn't, when you get the data to evaluate what works and what not, it's usually too late. Yeah. So people already adopt the technologies. If you get some data, people already adopt that widely. And so basically, it's always too late to get some data to develop policies. So we think, okay, the best approach probably, if we don't have data, we can use some bottom-up approach using evolutionary modeling. Yeah. So here's a model. I present only a simple one. There's several versions of this model. You can look at the paper here. So basically here you have a number of firms compete with each other, and they compete in a certain domain, for example, a self-driving car or autonomous weapon. Basically, if whoever reached a target would get a very big benefit B here. Yeah. So in order to reach the target, there's a number of advancements they did. So you have a repeated game here. So the number of advancement actually stands for the time scale you need to reach, let's say, AGI. Yeah. So some people say, okay, it's probably never happen. It will be a very long time until we reach. But some people actually say, okay, probably in a few years. So this W, the number of advancement, represents the time scale. So in each round of the interactions, you can either play safe or unsafe. Play safe means you fully comply with all the regulations, and unsafe means you ignore that completely. You can imagine a more continuous model where say, okay, I comply with a certain degree, but we haven't touched upon that. And here, the options of playing safe is not just more costly, but also it takes more time. Yeah. So you have here the speed of development. So safe will normalize to 1, and the speed of developing safe technology, unsafe technology is larger than 1. So you can reach AGI much faster, for example. So here are the possible strategies. You can have players who always play safe, yeah, because it's a repeated game, you have to define how they behave. You all can have the players that always play unsafe, and you have can have any combinations. You can imagine there could be some sort of tit for tat like strategies. So if the other players develop it safely, then the next round I did the same. Yeah. So the thing here is that whenever there's unsafe behaviors, you have a risk of disaster, yeah, which is proportional. We assume that it's proportional to the number of unsafe actions committed during this development process. We consider both sort of individualized risks, which is like the owner take the risk, or you also can have collective risks if AI or the risk of AI also influence several other people. Yeah. So here, for analyzing this, you need to write out the payoff matrix. So for example, here in one round, so two set players both have to pay a cost and share the benefit, while the set players, when set player play with unset player, they pay a cost but get a smaller benefit because they move faster. They get their product to the market slower. Yeah. We have expanded this to multiplayer games. So this is for only one round, but because it's a repeated game, you have to write down the payoff matrix for the whole process. Yeah. So here it's important to note that there's some with so for them unsafe players, they always get the payoff only with when the risk doesn't take place. Yeah. When the disaster doesn't take place, they get the payoff. Otherwise, they lose everything. Yeah. Okay, so with that payoff matrix using evolutionary game theory method, we can get both analytical and numerical results here. Here we ask the first questions. Okay, when regulatory actions required and when not. So what we do here is we plot the frequency of unsafe behavior as a functions of the development speed. So what you gain by ignoring safety precautions, how faster you can move. And here's the risk of disaster when you ignore the safety precautions. Yeah. So here we can split the parameter space into 3 zones. Here, the compliance zone, zone 1 and zone 3, here you don't need any regulations because the individual interest is aligned with collective interest. Yeah. So basically, you want people to behave safely, you actually get that through evolutionary dynamics. Yeah. The most
color encode. Yeah. Sorry, what does the color encode?
So here's so the unsafe behavior. So what is the total unsafe behavior in the populations? Yeah. So the most important area is the dilemma zone, where you want the firms to develop technology safely, but they actually go for unsafe. So that is the area where you actually need regulations to drive unsafe behavior towards safe behavior. We thought, okay, that's done. We know what to do. But actually, that's not the end of the story, because actually we don't know in which zone the race is taking place. We don't know what is, so if we speed up, what is the level of risk, and usually you only know that is what is the probability risk given the speed only when you have lots of data, but then you know what to do, but it's already too late. People already adopt the technologies. It's already too late to take any actions. So we ask the questions, okay, what can we do? So, but of course, first, I want to show that in this paper, we demonstrate that if we blindly regulate unsafe behavior, you can actually, that can lead to over-regulations here when the risk is sufficiently low. So basically here, you stifle the innovations where the risk is low, and you blind, because you blind, you always regulate unsafe behavior because you don't know anything about the risk. That is the side effect you can get when you have certain technologies that is not too risky. So our solution here is voluntary commitment. So come back to that. We here, before the interactions, the companies can say, okay, whether they would voluntarily commit to develop the technology safely. They can refuse to do that, that's fine. So the thing is, those who refuse to commit have the freedom to innovate. They won't be punished. So now you have, instead of 2 strategies as before, you have now 4 strategies. We have scenarios where there are more. So here you can see that now, if we punish only committed unsafe firms, you actually can reduce unsafe behavior in the dilemma zone, which is important, and there's no over-regulations. The reason is that here, the safe behavior who committed actually are better protected against this unsafe behavior. Why the AU out, which is the strategies that refuse to commit, and they actually develop the technology unsafely, they are not punished. So they would survive in this area, so that you actually still get the level of innovations you want because the risk is low. So that's basically, this is what I just mentioned. So we have a model that can describe AI governance and AI development ecosystem, and we can explore what kind of regulations that work. We show that regulating unsafe behavior unconditionally can lead to over-regulations, and we show that establishing voluntary safety commitment in advance can actually increase the safety behavior in the dilemma zone where it wasn't sort of evolving before, and we don't have any problem with over-regulation. So basically, we said, oh, we thought, okay, this we solved the problem. Of course, there's still several issues there that you need that need to be satisfied for all this mechanism to work. So you need somebody there to enforce, who can punish the unsafe behavior, which requires the capability of detecting when a company, for example, develop a technology unsafely, which can be very complicated for AI. People still develop technologies to capture unsafe behavior. But if we assume that all these technical works are done well, then voluntary commitment can actually solve all the problems without needing the data that is very difficult to have for for technology regulations. So this is all I promised. I don't know if you have time to quickly, like 2-3 minutes, to have about hybrid human AI system. I'm happy to stop there, but
Let's go.
okay. So we've been working a bit on hybrid human AI system. So there's two things we do in my group. We look at evolutionary pro-social behavior, like corporations in hybrid system. You have human and AI, all in a single populations. And the other thing is we want to study evolutionary dynamics in AI development ecosystem. So I just described this AI race, but there's no users, for example, in there. Yeah. So for example, a more complete AI development ecosystem where you have also users who can decide whether to trust and adopt an AI or not, and how all these actors interact with each other. So for the first part, so here's a recent work. We look at which AI is better for corporations. So whether it is a good Samaritan who helps everyone. So you have AI who helps everyone regardless of their behavior. So just AI system is just there to help, or you can have a discriminatory AI system who actually say, okay, check. Oh, does this one have a good track record? Or yes, so you see social credit system, facial recognition tech is all sorts of doing this sort of selective decision making. Yeah. So we show using evolutionary game theory that so here beta again is the intensity of selections. We show that Samaritan AI actually work better when you have weak intensity of selection. So basically, you have a slow pacing society, yeah, where people do not take sorts of success too seriously. So it's slow, whatever. Yeah, so I'm happy with what I have. Then the Samaritan AI actually work very well. Why discriminatory AI work much better in fast-moving society where success is seriously taken into account. So if you observe someone who is more successful, you change your behavior, you copy the behavior. So the reason is that Samaritan AI help corporations through being a cooperative role model. So basically, here you have these equations. That is the probability that you have one more cooperator in the populations. So basically here, the probability of selecting a cooperator as a role model is higher in these equations. Yeah. Why discriminatory AIs help corporations through selectively withholding help from defectors, which figure in this part of the equations. So basically now by only have a cooperator, you actually increase that probability, yeah, of changing. Yeah. So basically, if you increase beta here, then the part related to discriminations is actually making a more important role in these equations. Yeah. Okay, so we have a preprint. Feel free to have a look, please. And another one, the last slide, is when we incorporate users in an AI ecosystem. Yeah? So you have here different populations. We actually have a 3 population model where you have the users who can trust or not trust an AI system. So only when they trust, then they adopt the AI. Then there will be benefit for the developers and the regulators. Yeah? And you here have the developers who can either play safe or unsafe, exactly as the AI race model I presented. And you have the regulators who can invest on doing the job properly. So they actually try to catch unsafe behavior, unsafe firm, or they just, okay, yeah, I get all the money I need from the government, from this AI development, but I don't do my job. So we show here that it is really important to enable users to make informed decisions based on whether the regulations is doing the job, whether you in the system regulatory body actually doing the job or not. So this is the paper we just put on archive last week. Okay, that's all I have. Thank you so much.
Is there the second last word? How do you define discriminatory AI?
Discriminatory AI. So basically, the AI can observe. So you have one shot prisoner dilemma. So basically, you cannot have the information about the co-play, right? But in here, we assume that the AI actually can do some facial recognition, for example, and actually say, okay, I have a sort of history about everyone in the population. And say, okay, this one doesn't have a good track record. I refuse to have. So basically, just we assume that it knows exactly what that player would do in the game. Yeah. Of course, this is not, it can be, it should be made more probabilistic. Yeah, you can say there must be some error. Yeah, it is easy to check that. Yeah, it should be, the result should be flexible for sufficiently a good sort of facial recognition system. Yes.
One question, I think we touched upon that already in our meeting, but I'm still not 100% sure if I understood what's the reasoning behind modeling advancements in the technology, even if it's about competing firms, as a strategic interaction. Because maybe just for some context, if you would think about innovations or something like that, you would say, okay, you have an entity and it produces novel technology or innovations, and it does so by gradual improvement, or by recombining different things. But I never associated it with a strategic interaction between two players, from which you have a resulting advancement in technology.
So basically, so here you have the scenario where there's some, let's say, some safety standard that you need to meet. Yeah, so the regulatory bodies set ethical and safety standard when a firm develops technologies. So if they say, okay, I ignore that, I just move as fast as I can. So by ignoring all these things that you need to make sure in your software development, you can move faster. That's why the unsafe can move faster. So that the strategic aspect of that is you can move faster by ignoring safety precautions and safety standards. Yeah.
And that's precisely my question. So you have intermediate payoffs. So you can think of it as intermediate products that would lead to this superhuman AGI in the end with a big benefit. But on the way there, you already have benefits that are encoded in specific interactions in the payoff matrix.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
So you already progress safely or unsafely. It's not just about the final goal.
Yeah, actually, I didn't show here because I focused because it was more relevant. I focused on the short-term AI. So basically, AI can be reached within not so many routes. But we show in our paper, if it is a very long-term process to reach AGI, then the benefit you get along the process is much more important than the big benefit you get at the end. Yeah, probably this you never get. There's a promise of such a big benefit, but nobody probably ever get there. Yeah. Yes, please.
About the last results, you showed about the cooperative AI, which could be Samaritan or could be.
Yes. Yeah. Yes.
One thing I didn't understand is what about that model is specific to AI, and in what sense is it just general, or if you have a Samaritan, you can be exploited, regardless of whether you are actually artificial intelligence or human. In what sense is there any part which you specifically make you think about artificial intelligence?
Yeah, that's great questions. Sorry.
I would also maybe ask the same question about people, right? Like, what makes you think that this is a person, not just like a rule?
Yeah, but I just want to extend a specific part about AI.
Yes, yeah. So here, in here is, so we have a population of humans, and we have, say, AI bots. Yeah, so basically here, this AI system do not change their behavior all the time. So basically, it's just they have fixed behavior. Yeah, they can either Samaritan or
Okay. So the difference is that humans can adapt that behavior.
yeah, exactly. And the other thing is we consider also two scenarios where AI can be identified from here. So in one scenario, what the results I show here is non-identifiable AI. So people look at AI, they know nothing about whether this is an AI or human. But we also consider in the paper the scenario where you have AI is identifiable. So then in that case, the results is slightly different. It depends on the trust. Yeah. So for example, if you say human trust AI a lot, yeah, then we actually change that the intensity of selection. So if we say if the intensity of when people know that this is an AI, the intensity of selection is either higher or smaller than the intensity of when they look at human. So there are different results. We actually show that the best scenario is if people know that it's AI, they should just ignore that their payoff. Don't take seriously the payoff of an AI. Yeah. So, of the success of AI. Yeah.
Of the intensity of selection. Like even if you change the intensity of selection, it only slows down the convergence. It will still the eventual result would still be the same. No.
So the thing is, so here if you have an identifiable AI, yeah, and here if you have beta, let's say beta AI, yeah, and if you have very small beta AI, normally this probability is always smaller than 0.5 because a Samaritan AI would always have a lower payoff than a defector because they cooperate regardless. Yeah? So if you say, okay, this Samaritan AI, they have very low success in these interactions. If you take that seriously and you say, okay, I trust AI, if it is AI, I copy the behavior, then this is very bad. Yeah. It's only good if you say, okay, I know they are just there for help. We shouldn't take that payoff seriously. So basically, if you put this beta equals 0, then this is just 0.5, which is the best possible scenario for corporations.
So this one do have the beta do have a threshold for the selection to happen and not to happen.
Yeah, so we say, okay, yeah, in scenarios where AI is identifiable, we didn't do any, we don't have any source of data on that. Usually this beta is actually a very good thing when you do experiment. You can actually measure the beta from experiments, and yeah, you can ask, okay, how seriously people take the payoff of an AI in an interactions, yeah, and you can calibrate. So and usually is when you try to validate an evolutionary game theory model, you can always play around with this beta to see, okay, where this beta that actually fit your experimental results. Yeah. This is actually a very good parameter to have in the model.
Here's a question that came on.
So was there a question here?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, go for it.
Oh, so a question I had is, so you talked about this model that supports the idea of having voluntary commitment in order to avoid overregulation. But I didn't fully follow the logic there of like so where exactly is the voluntary commitment coming into the model? And also, like under what assumptions does this support for voluntary commitments actually hold? Like if you imagine going to like, you know, the regulators in the UK or EU or something, and um, are trying, people are trying to actually determine what's the right policy. Like, how confident are you in the assumptions of this model to actually advise based on these results?
Yes. Great questions. Thanks. The first one is how this voluntary commitment comes into the model. So you can see here. So now, as in the prisoner dilemma model, so before the interactions, you can decide whether to commit or not. Yeah. So there's a safety agreement there, and people say, okay, I'm going to commit to do it safe, or I refuse to commit to do it safe. So now you create a new decision point. People can commit or not commit, and then they can make conditional decisions on whether the commitment was formed or not. Yeah. So now instead of two strategies, now you have four strategies. You have the player that plays safe and commit, play safe that do not commit, and the player that plays unsafe and commit, and unsafe that do not commit. Yeah. So then now you can, so here we only punish the players that commit. So incentive can only be provided for committed players. You do not punish those who say, okay, I'm not capable of committing. Yeah. The other questions is how realistic, how you can implement and ensure this sort of voluntary commitment mechanism in the real world. I think it's already exists in some place. So for example, at the beginning, I show you an example. The White House already go for a voluntary commitment from a firm. So if you say there's somebody who is willing to make sure that whoever commit, then they have the ability to check whether the commitment is honored. This is actually the most difficult part. When someone commit, and you can check that whether they actually honor the commitment, especially in this sort of AI safety, because to check whether a system is safe is actually very, very hard at the moment. Lots of work putting into like AI safety. So that is one condition. So you need somebody, you need a system, a capability of checking if somebody honor an agreement. The good thing with commitment is that you actually have them sign up to, for example, you can develop the terms and conditions. If somebody commit, they have to share posts, they have to meet a certain transparency standard. And those who do not commit, you cannot do anything about that, for example. Yeah. So with voluntary commitment, it allows, it enable easier monitoring, and of course, it allows freedom. But the most important thing here is it allows freedom of innovation. So those who say, okay, maybe they think, okay, it's actually not risky, so they refuse to commit, so they won't be touched. Yeah. I'm not sure if I answered your questions. Please.
Well, so the second question was not so much about how it would be implemented in the real world as more of like to what extent the findings are applicable. Like for instance, maybe you have some assumptions in there of like all, you know, all the progress steps are equal and constant or something, and that's not actually true. And if that changed, the
Yeah.
result would be very different. Or maybe there's in the real world, if one actor does something bad, then it's like really bad for everyone versus your model is assuming that it's sort of like a constant cost or something like that. Yeah, so I'm just wondering, like, how would you characterize this, the setting in which this is applicable, and do you think, and how true do you think those assumptions are of the real world?
No, absolutely, it's not about the reward. But we try to capture some aspects of that. Yeah, all models are wrong. But yeah, we indeed, yeah, this is I discussed a few assumptions when we model this. For example, we assume that all the benefits are constants and all advancement requires the same time, but in the real world, it can be quite different. Yeah. So the key thing here is we have a repeated process and we have a big benefit at the end. I think at the end, those are the most important things. Yeah. Probably, yeah, if the speed of development is different for different advancement step, at the end probably will average out. That's what I think. But yeah, indeed, to make this realistic, of course, I think there's still a lot of work to do. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yeah.